And we're going.
All right. So, hey, Keisha.
Hello, Nicole. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. So, we're going to just jump right into it, okay?
Okay.
For learning differences, first of all, you got 2 3s. So, first
Okay.
of all, let's clap that up. We
All
gotta we
right.
gotta celebrate that. We gotta
Positives and then you're negative. I got you.
we gotta celebrate that. For English language learners, I was already kind of excited and already knew that you have a wealth of information and experience in working with your ELL students. So, and you were very reflective in your reflection piece. I loved how you encouraged your students to write. You pushed Ingrid to talk. And you also allowed them for more time when they needed to complete work, as well as you allowed them to use calculators as well. So all of that is an ELL strategies. So you knocked that one out of the park. Also valuing students. I could tell that you have a huge respect level for your students and they feel respected as well. You even gave one of your students a non-verbal signal to kind of get him to start working. So, and you gave abundance of praise. So that was awesome. The only thing that would have pushed you to a 4 is giving specific praise, right? So, telling them exactly what you're praising them for. I appreciated that you started working immediately when you saw my face. You know what I mean? Or I appreciate that you gave your response and you articulated the details, like being very specific. So that way they are clear on what it is that I did well on and also what it is I could probably push myself, a little bit further on. And as far as the ELL, suggestions for that, I mean, just consistency, getting them to just be a little bit more engaged as far as talking and writing the language as well as that. Any questions about your 3s so far?
No.
Okay. All right. So I kind of want to, so the next 2, multiple perspectives, as well as, the next 3, differentiated instruction and students with learning differences or needs. I kind of feel like they go hand in hand a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
First, when it comes to multiple perspectives, what was your takeaway from the rubric? And then what was your thoughts on my evaluation for you?
Um, I feel like the rubric is more. I, when it says the community, the nation, and globe, I think that's just too broad because I can't bring the nation to my classroom. I can't bring
Okay.
the globe into my classroom. And I think the globe, when they use that term, is more internet, more interaction with the World Wide Web, more so. Um, but to me, most perspectives in that lesson was the equation, which is y equals mx plus b. When I created the call corner, I did it specifically with a graph, which was the formula, so they had to identify what formula associated with the graph. I did a word problem, and within the word problem, identifying the 2 different students and their culture, which is their Hispanic origin. Tacos is very common. We had a Christmas party, and I had an abundance of Hispanic food. Tacos was definitely a big part of what we ate. Tostadas, pupusas, which is an El Salvadorian meal that they eat.
Mm.
And I tried to incorporate the question, but in alignment with if family were to own their own businesses or sell their own products, how would that relate? So that was my global piece of incorporating their culture into the lesson. And
Right.
then with the video game piece, that's something that Valerio is very interested in. He loves playing video games as well as soccer. but in order to make it like an equation to where they could find the y, which is the beginning value, and then the increase, which is our m and x, which is your rise over run, so on and so forth. I use the video game because that's a realistic goal. If he wants to buy a game, it could be valued at Y, which could be $60. He starts with 20. Each week he does this, blah, blah, blah. So I try to make it multiple perspectives that way, that they're able to see different situations can be applied across the same concept. So that was my goal.
So if that was the goal, then you mastered that part of the goal. They were very engaged when it came to seeing themselves within the lessons. That was clear, right? What the rubric kind of states about multiple perspectives, and this is what I'm kind of talking with Tish right now about, is they want the critical thinking piece when they mean multiple perspectives, right? So how can we take Valerio? Is that his name? He's the tall one, right?
Yeah.
He's very strong. So if we took his problem about the video games and he is able to work that out, how can we give him or the rest of the group, right, the same problem in a different way, and then have them explain it? So in my suggestion, I mentioned manipulatives. I mentioned maybe giving the actual answer and having him work his way back to what the original problem was, just to build that critical thinking piece in there. Maybe it's giving the scenario and already giving the answer and having him or someone else write a story to go along with how they, making them explain how to do it, or they have to explain the steps.
That's what we did in example 1 with the graph. I gave scaffolded questions, which is how I tried to hit the differentiation with instruction. So in question 1, they had to identify which formula equated to the graph, but they also had to give me a scenario that can be related to the graph. So they had to create their own story as to how they would make that graph work for them. And then they also had to, there was another prompt that I wrote down. So it was like each question had at least 2 to 3 prompts to get them to dig deeper into the concept.
Did they have to at all explain it to one another of how they did it?
So what they did was when they created the samples, I know like Valerio gave me his and I read it and I said, great job. And I explained this was what he did. And then I assisted Ingrid and Veronica and they shared their stories with each other.
So so here's the huge piece with when it comes to the rubric and the difference between a 2 and a 3, right? Or a 3 and a 4. You have to allow them to explain it to each other, not you take it and explain it to them. Does that make sense?
Of course.
So Valerio, so you read it, right? You praised him, and it should be, Valerio, you should share this out with the group and see what they have to say.
Okay, I got you.
And then allowing him to talk it to them, explain it to them. And I think, and if it's not in this evaluation, it might be in another one, but I said something about crafting questions for them to ask him just to dig deeper in the thinking.
Okay.
Because the idea is that, and just based off of the couple of videos that I've seen, like your kids, they're ready. They are ready to challenge one another. They're ready to talk to each other because they really do understand the work. And it's okay for you to step back and allow them to have that discourse. Okay. So the next steps that I said that would help you move your 3s to 4s and your 2s to 3s. Again, you're still doing the heavy lifting. So just finding those small points where they can have that student discourse. Make sure that you're being very specific in your praising. And feel free to use manipulatives as well as the alternate problem solving, as well as the project-based learning. I know that you said that you had that in there, but just make it a little bit more consistent and throughout.
Okay.
Okay. And then again, just having them kind of explain to one another, not just to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Okay.